Good morning, and welcome to the New York State Hearing Aid Dispensing Advisory Board meeting. I'm calling this meeting to order. I'm Amy Penseby, and I'm going to be heading the meeting today. Whitney could not attend. So I'm going to start with introductions. I'd like to take a roll call of board members in Albany. Okay.
I'm Jim Hines, representing Mary Ellen Aaliyah from the Department of Education.
Okay.
Denise Tidings, Department of State, Examination Development.
Jody DeLallo, Department of State.
Sharon Sherlin, Board Coordinator.
Arnita Gant, Department of State.
Mary Jo Moore, Department of State.
Okay, can we go to New York City?
Dave Mossberg, Department of State. Jerry, tell them who you are.
Jerry Bergman. I'm president of the Hearing Loss Association of New York State. I'm a consumer advocate for hearing accessibility, member of the New York City chapter, HLAA, and here as also a subcommittee member.
Peter Fisher, board member, hearing aid dispenser.
Okay, let's go to Buffalo.
Ann Orsini, board member, audiologist.
Sean Newlands, board member, otolaryngologist.
Okay, welcome. I'd like to announce that we don't have a quorum, so we won't be able to, when we get to the action items, we won't be able to vote on the approval of the board meeting minutes from the last meeting without the quorum. Okay, so we'll skip A and we'll go to B. Legal research on revising CE. Dave, can you speak on that, please?
Sure. So following the last meeting, we were asked to look at what options we could pursue to make T-coil and other assisted living technologies part of the mandatory CE requirement. So we looked at section 192.7 of Title 19, and there are two sections that discuss continuing ed. Subdivision B discusses the requirements for regular hearing aid dispensers. Subdivision W concerns the CE for audiologists who are also licensed by state ed. There's room within each of those to amend the current text to provide at least 1 hour of CE to be devoted to the subject of T-coils and other assisted listening devices. So what we're contemplating, or what we could probably do, is amend subdivision V to add 1 hour without changing any of the other current mandatory classes. So if we were to pursue it, it would end up being 2 hours of infection control, 1 hour of T-coil and other assisted listening devices, 1 hour devoted to laws and regs, and then the remainder would just be basically electives, and then they would use those electives to fulfill the mandatory 20 hours. Subdivision W is a little bit more restrictive because the department only has real authority to prescribe 4 hours of continuing ed, and that's because that's set out in the statute, and that's for the dispensers who are also licensed audiologists. So we could either do something similar to what we are potentially going to do with the regular dispensers, which is do 2 hours of infection, 1 hour of T-coil, and then 1 hour of laws and regs, and that would leave basically no electives for the audiologists. The other option would be to decrease 1 hour of infectious control, add the 1 hour of T-coil, add or keep the 1 hour of laws and regs, and then allow the audiologist to effectively have 1 hour of an elective course. Considering that audiologists also have to be licensed by SED and have other training, and also, we don't want to overly restrict their ability to take classes, it may make sense to do the second option, to have it sort of different from the regular dispensers, and decrease the 2 hour to a 1 hour of infectious control. But we could do that. That is currently within our jurisdictional authority. So basically the next step would be to have sort of an agreement from, a recommendation from the advisory board as to the best avenue to pursue it in terms of what we're going to do at subdivision V and W. And then after that, I would just prepare the documents for a formal rulemaking change. So that's all I have on that. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, does anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I can pipe in for the Department of Education. I can run this proposal by the State Board for Speech Language Pathology and Audiology and get the reaction in terms of the two alternatives that David suggested. I have a meeting later in October and should be able to report back after that meeting.
Okay, that's a good idea. We can discuss it at the next board meeting.
Yeah, I assume any regulatory, you're going to have to post anyway. We'll wait for formal comments, but I can give you our position on that early in the game. David.
Yeah, I think that would definitely help if we're going to do a rulemaking. So definitely appreciate that.
Right, I can get some feedback for you from the audiologist on my board.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. We'll add it as an item for the next agenda with the feedback, and then we'll move forward with how the board wants to move forward with adding that additional education.
Yeah, so can we just say something
Sure.
from Buffalo?
Yeah, I just have a comment as an audiologist as far as the recommendations for adding the T-coil and ALD 1 hour training. I agree that the infection control could be limited to 1 hour. I feel that's enough time to cover a review of infection control for audiology in that 2-year period. So that would be my recommendation, would be to cut that to 1 hour and add the T-coil ALD to 1 hour.
Thank you.
This is Jerry in New York. From the hearing aid consumer standpoint, I just want to reiterate that the sense behind this proposal is to try to encourage more practicing dispensers and audiologists to understand the value of telecoils and not simply jump to someone who asks for the smallest, least visible device and make a quick sale. Not that most or even many audiologists do that. The other important point is that we constantly meet people who do have telecoils whose audiologists have never told them how the telecoil works in a public setting, perhaps only a telephone setting, or they never even activated the program that would allow them to utilize their telecoil. So that's really what we think needs to be communicated more, and I appreciate the board's pursuit of education to try to do that.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Florence Butler. She was just able to join us in Albany.
Didn't seem to be working.
It's not working? Can you hear me?
I apologize for being late.
That's okay.
This is Jerry in New York. I would like to ask about another recommendation of the subcommittee.
Hi, Jerry. Jerry, can we add that to the public comment period? We have a portion of the meeting where members of the public can add comments. Okay,
Amy, I think it pertains to Dave's remarks about the signage, because we
Right.
not only proposed that the signage be amended, but we also proposed that the disclosure form and purchase agreement be revised. So I want to ask where that now stands with the
Well,
board.
that's gonna, yeah, that will, as we go through the board meeting, that's one of the items that we'll be talking about. So, I just want to get Florence set up so that she can hear, okay? Thanks. Are you all set, Florence?
I can hear enough. I wanted to say that,
Okay. She's gonna try once
I
again.
want to say that I agree with Jerry's comments. I recently had a meeting with hard of hearing people. None of them understood the T-coil, and we had a loop available.
Okay.
And they have not been told, or have not been turned on by their audiologists.
Okay. Okay, thank you, and Florence is all set. Okay, so, we will add it to the agenda, for the next meeting to, further discuss, you know, adding that 1 hour of CE. So, section C is dissemination of plan to provide businesses with materials. So, we have a plan that subcommittee suggested that we do a mailing to all the hearing aid dispenser businesses, including signage and a brochure, a trifold brochure, including information on the Telecoil. That will be going out. The letter going out to all the businesses is being drafted by our counsel's office, and once that's completed, we'll be sending out the information to the hearing aid businesses. Any questions?
Amy, what's the timetable for that?
Well, once the letter is drafted, it probably would take a couple weeks to get it out. So I would say within the next month or so.
Okay, I just hark back to the law which says printed educational materials shall include information on assistive listening devices, basic overview, and how they are to be used with hearing aids. So again, I would like to see that the materials reflect what is required in this area that we're talking about. And will the correspondence as well as the revised materials be presented to us for our comment?
Yeah, I mean, we can send it to the board members and get approval, make sure that everybody on the board is in agreement with the information that's going out. My understanding is that the signage and the brochure has already been approved by the subcommittee. Is that correct, Denise?
The sorry, say that again.
The brochure and the signage that was discussed during the board meeting, the subcommittee meeting, right?
Yes.
So that's already been approved by the
subcommittee.
By the subcommittee and by the board at the last meeting, right?
I don't think I'm.
But we can send it, before we do the mailing, we can send it out and let all the board members and the subcommittee members know of what's going to be going out to the public.
I'm sorry, this is Jerry. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting. If the staff could please send me what was approved, I'd just like to look at it in relation to what the subcommittee put forth at the prior meeting, if that's all right. And then if we could see the correspondence at the appropriate time, that would also be helpful.
Denise, you can send that information to all the subcommittee members, right?
I can.
Yeah. Okay.
They believe they have the latest version that we proposed, but as Jerry stated, he wasn't at the last one, and I thought we kind of tabled that. But the subcommittee, I thought, had approved the format of the signage and the consumer brochure.
So he's seen the latest version, but we can email it to you. Okay, so we're going to go to Section 3, Subcommittee and Department Reports. Jody, can you please report on the processing report?
Good morning, everyone. I don't have a lot to report, but Sharon did provide licensing statistics in our folders. There's a comparison, there's a report showing the number of licensees in August of 2016, and then she provided information on August of 2015. There doesn't seem to be any kind of too much of a difference. Nothing stands out as being a topic for discussion. Seems to remain steady, but they are in your folder. It's broken down by county, so if you wanted to take a look at that, that's there. I talked to staff this morning who process applications, and prior to the board meetings, I like to get a feel for the applications that we're getting in and what we're seeing, if there's any trends. Specifically, we like to know why applications are being rejected. We like to share that information so that, perhaps we can limit the number of rejections. So they gave me a few examples. One of the things that they're seeing more recently is when a trainee completes their course of instruction and they're applying to take their exam, they're not submitting those course completion forms. So we have a form that we send to them, and we send a notice to them telling them that we need their proof of their training, their course completion, and their instructor has to fill that out and send it back in before we can allow them to take the exam. So that was one of the issues. Something else is, so audiologists have to provide proof that they're licensed as an audiologist. So they're sending in their course completion certificates rather than their registration showing that they're currently registered. So that's something that we could probably, if they send in the right, we don't have to reject it. The third thing is, and I think I mentioned this at the last board meeting, a trainee will send in an application and they'll list their supervisor, their supervising dispenser, but that dispenser is not associated with the business that the trainee is working at, which that happens, I think, in like some of the businesses that have multiple locations or multiple, I guess, franchises maybe. So then we have to send it back and ask them to have that supervising dispenser associated with that business. So those are just a few examples of things that, rejections that we'd like not to see, as well as the applicant would, they don't want to delay their licensure. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Any questions? Does anybody have any questions for Jody? Okay. Well, we'll move on to the next item, which is Exam Education Subcommittee Report. Denise?
Hello. We recently updated the hearing aid dispensing licensing written examinations to reflect the new syllabus, and pretty much about 25% of the exam has been changed, and we anticipate implementing that new examination in 2017. January 2017 is the first time we should give that examination. We were able to have industry professionals validate the items, which are the exam questions, to make sure that they were good questions to use. So that's how we arrived at those. I don't know if you have any questions about that. Pretty much it.
Thank you, Denise. Sure.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yep, that was always an item of concern that, our exams were not being updated. They are being updated and made sure that they're relevant with the industry. So, okay, the next item is Telecoil Subcommittee update. Dave?
Well, we sort of touched on the T-Coil subcommittee in the other sections, but just to sort of reiterate, when we had met, we were thinking about ways to get important information to the consumer through the licensees, particularly with respect to T-Coils. And so, as I mentioned before, one of the things that we reviewed and we're moving forward with is the amended regulations to require CE on T-Coils and other assisted living devices. Denise and Amy mentioned before, we're going to be disseminating a lot of good and new information to the licensees so that they can give that to the public. And other than that, I'm not really sure if there's anything else to add, but we are trying to implement a good many of the recommendations that the subcommittee has made. So that's really all we have. I'm not sure if there's anything else or if Jerry wants to add anything else, but we're just moving forward with the recommendations.
This is Jerry. Thank you, Dave, for your good follow-up work on the recommendations of the subcommittee. I just wanted to point out that the minutes in our packet indicate at the meeting that I said I wasn't able to attend in the last meeting, that you and Mr. Shapiro, that you and Whitney would schedule a meeting with the subcommittee to deal with some of the specific recommendations, and that hasn't happened so far as I know. So I would just, like to again say that I would be glad and hopeful that I can continue to be involved as we pursue the recommendations of the subcommittee.
This is Peter Fisher in New York. I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity to review the revised brochure before it becomes concrete.
This is Jerry again. Just to follow up on Peter's point, there was also a second document which has been part of the public information function of the board, which is the long version, as I kind of refer to it, and we made some recommendations on changes to that, as well as what I think is a trifold or smaller brochure or pamphlet. So both of those publications should hopefully have another first look in the format that the board wishes to have it published and disseminated. And I just again want to add something about the spirit of the changes, which is to provide more and better information for consumerism, so that the people who need help to hear will be better served by the community professionals.
Okay, yes, we'll get those documents out to the board members for review. We'll draft a letter also, and at the next board meeting, we'll get a consensus that all the board members are in agreement with the documents before we send them out.
Amy, thank you. This is Jerry. Because I am not an appointed member of the board, I would just like to ask that as the subcommittee chair, you add me to that list that you distribute those materials to, please.
Yeah, you're on the subcommittee, so you definitely will be included in the documents that are forwarded out.
Thank you.
This is Peter Fisher. I was wondering if everyone understands why we are applying ourselves to this particular task. I know that many people have a limited knowledge about T-coils and loop systems, and so if I could just take 5 minutes of your time and read a little story that I've written, it may help to explain what our goal is. Is that all right with you?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay. The title of this story is, What's a T-coil? Once upon a time, our friend Jane went to her local library to attend a lecture on real estate taxes. Jane noticed an unusual sign at the entrance to the lecture room. It was a picture of a blue ear. Jane asked the librarian about the sign. The librarian explained that the sign indicated that the lecture room was looped. Looped? Asked Jane. Yes, stated the librarian. A loop system is an assistive device in the lecture room that enhances the reception of the audio presentation during the lecture. It is beneficial for hearing impaired attendees who use hearing aids that have a T-coil. Jane had recently been fit with hearing aids, but had never heard of a T-coil. What's a T-coil? Asked Jane. I'm not an expert on this, said the librarian, but apparently it's a part in the hearing aid that picks up transmissions from the loop system and allows the hearing aid user to hear the lecture better. Well, said Jane, I wear hearing aids, but I have never heard of a T-coil. I will have to ask my hearing aid dispenser about this. The next day, Jane visited with her hearing aid dispenser and asked about T-coils and loops. The dispenser explained that although her hearing aids had T-coils, they were not enabled because Jane didn't have problems hearing on the telephone. T-coil means telephone coil, said her dispenser. It helps people that have problems hearing on the telephone hear better on hearing aid compatible phones. I will hook up your hearing aids to the computer and enable the T-coils so that you could take advantage of looped environments. I will program the aids so that the microphone will work while the T-coils are in use. This will allow you to hear the audience and the loop presentation at the same time. You just have to push the button on the back of the hearing aid to use the T-coil. Don't forget to turn off the T-coil when you leave the looped environment, or you may hear humming around certain electrical devices. Jane practiced using the button while at the dispenser's office and was anxious to attend another lecture at the library. The next week, she was amazed by the benefit that the loop system provided while at the library for another lecture, and was happy that she had asked about the blue ear. That's it.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we're going to go on to new business. Does any of the board members have any new business to add? Okay. I'm going to open.
This is Jerry.
Okay.
Excuse me. I believe you said I might bring up at this point the recommendation of the subcommittee with regard to the form that has to be signed when hearing aids are dispensed, the purchase agreement. Can we discuss that now?
Sure.
Again, don't know what's transpired among the staff, council, or board members since I missed the last meeting, but there was nothing in the minutes. The subcommittee was in agreement that the purchase agreement disclosure form should confirm that the dispenser has informed about the benefits of T-coil technology, looped environments, and assistive devices. Again, that's consistent with the spirit of the law as it currently exists in New York State. And it says, by signing this bill of sale, I'm confirming that my dispenser provided me with information and explained the benefits of T-coils as a hearing aid option. So I'm just inquiring as to the state of consideration of that recommendation.
Dave and Denise, you guys are part of the subcommittee meeting. Can one of you speak to that?
Dave, I included it, but I don't know that we were planning on disseminating
Oh, I'm sorry. Denise?
the purchase agreement. Dave, it was one of the documents that was included, and we reviewed, but I think that they decided against including that in the disseminated materials.
Right. Yeah, as Denise mentioned, we did review it. There were reasons why we thought that it was not appropriate to send to the businesses as sort of like a requirement that all businesses give to the clients. We're moving forward with the other recommendations. At this time, we don't think it's appropriate to tell business owners or to the licensees that this particular sort of bill of sale is what's required. Businesses operate sort of differently and use various processes, and there could be a concern that it would be too onerous for businesses to drastically shift sort of how they keep business records, transact, operate, things of that nature. So considering the other proposals that we are moving forward with, this wasn't one that right now we're thinking is appropriate to move forward on.
Well, again, just to respond, the subcommittee was motivated by a desire to improve the practice of audiology in New York State for the benefit of the consumer, consistent with New York State law. And the law in New York State, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, does require that T-coils and assistive technology information be given to consumers, and if they're sold hearing aids and not given that information and given a chance to make a purchase decision to include a telecoil, they go out into the community, as you just heard from the example that was read by Peter. And so the provision in the law simply does not improve our situation as consumers. There is absolutely no enforcement within New York State at the moment of that provision of the law, and we're hoping at least that the signage will begin to make that point known to consumers. But I dare say few of the people who go to audiologists will look around the office for signage and read the signage and ask the audiologist what that signage means. So the only enforcement that currently exists is when a consumer does hear from us, who are advocates, about telecoils and takes the time to file a formal complaint about an audiologist. But as we all know, most people don't do that. So the purpose of this change was to try to move New York State forward in a very slight way to give audiologists the message that it is a requirement that they do this, and there should be a stipulation in the bill of sale that confirms that. So I would just ask that the board reconsider the subcommittee's proposal and try to come up with a better rationale, because frankly, I didn't hear one. I only heard that it was not approved.
We'll take your comments into consideration, and we'll discuss it further with our administration and make a determination, and with board members. It's a board decision, and they advise the department, and the department makes decisions based on advisement. So we will take it into consideration, and we'll address it at another meeting. We'll put it on our action items.
Thank you.
The next section is the public comment period. Is there anybody from any of the offices that would like to make a comment? Okay. Albany? Barbara or Fred?
Use the speaker because the microphone, because I'm getting
one right there.
Static.
There's a microphone right here.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear? Is that?
I can't
Okay,
hear.
you can use this one.
Pass it down. Okay, just go up there.
that better, Florence?
Much better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on some of the things that have been discussed on behalf of the Hearing Healthcare Alliance, which I do represent at this meeting. And I just want to make a note that the Hearing Healthcare Alliance represents both audiologist and non-audiologist dispensers. There are two different kinds of individuals permitted to dispense hearing aids under New York state law, and there has been an awful lot of discussion at this meeting that only talks about audiologist dispensing. I know that you're all aware that the hearing aid dispensers need not be audiologists, and so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention for further discussion. But what I really wanted to talk about was some of the things that have been discussed at this meeting related to T-coils. The Alliance is very supportive of making sure that every consumer that goes to a dispenser, audiologist or non-audiologist, does receive all of the information that they should receive and that dispensers are required to give under the law already about T-coils and other assistive listening devices. We had worked with Jerry's organization to make sure that the members of the Alliance got that information and realized their obligation under current law. It's been an integrated part of the CE meeting that the Alliance conducts on an annual basis for dispensers. And we do recognize that Jerry's organization wants some other changes. We had been considering a way to try and make sure that every organization that provides continuing education does provide an appropriate amount of information on T-coils and other assistive listening devices. But Dave Mossberg's proposal at this meeting that there be a separate 1-hour course in CE that is required is the first time that we have heard that proposal. And so I think that the board of the Alliance will want to consider that, and we'll have some comments that we would like to circulate to the members of this board before you discuss that at the next meeting. I would just make two comments about the proposal that is out there. One, we are happy that it is talking about both T-coils and other assistive listening devices, because T-coils have been around for a very, very long time, and there is certainly a sense within the industry that the manufacturers are moving on to other kinds of technologies in hearing aids that would do the same thing for hearing aid users as the T-coil, and so we would not want to have a requirement limited, especially if a requirement is in regulation, we would not want to have it limited to something that could be old technology very soon. The other thing that I think I would like to comment on was the proposal that while hearing aid dispensers be required to have the, when you're talking about mandatory CE courses, in order to accommodate this proposal for 1 hour of T-coil ALD CE, that they have that 1 hour, the 1 hour in New York laws and regs, which is already a requirement, and the 2 hours of infection control, which is already a requirement, but that 1 hour of infection control, or that the infection control requirement be reduced to 1 hour for audiologists. And you know, certainly there is reason to want to give audiologists a little more flexibility, since they are only required to have 4 hours of their CE, and they have other CE requirements under their licensure through the education department. They might need a little bit more flexibility, but I think the reality is that courses are developed for the entire community of people that are dispensing hearing aids, and as I said earlier, they include both audiologist dispensers and non-audiologist dispensers. So I'm not sure it is realistic to expect that when you are preparing a meeting for people that may be audiologists and may not be audiologists, that there would be two different kinds of infection control courses. I think there will still continue to be one infection control course, and since the requirement for one of those groups of people, the non-audiologist dispensers, will remain at 2 hours, I think that the courses that are available are going to be 2-hour courses, and you probably don't want to create a situation where audiologist dispensers might feel that they could walk out halfway through that course if they only need 1 hour, when that 1 hour will not be everything that they should be learning about infection control. So I just bring that up as a practical problem. And again, I think that there will be a more detailed and more elaborate position from the Hearing Healthcare Alliance on Dave Mossberg's whole recommendation here for a regulatory change that we will ask the department to circulate to all board members before the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Fred, do you want
Amy,
to speak also? Fred's going to speak also. This is a public comment period.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss. I'm talking to you today as Executive Director of the Hearing Healthcare Alliance of New York, and that also puts me in the position of the education developer for our annual conference, in which we supply at least 10 hours of to 12 hours of approved licensure CEs, and they are in turn approved by the department. And thank you very much for helping us with that, because I can imagine what you get hit with all this stuff. I understand that our friend Mark just returned from someplace and walked into a brick wall of work. But when we had spoken before at the meeting, we had suggested that the curriculum guidelines be amended to include the Telecoil in the existing 1-hour program. We are required every year to present the program. Every hearing aid dispenser, audiologist and non-audiologist, is required every 2 years to receive that 1 hour of New York State law and regulations. And we felt it a very effective way to get the information out in regard to reinforcing the fact that all dispensers should follow the example, should follow the rules, which is you must discuss T-coils, ALDs, and you must hand out literature. That was the purpose, and that's how I amended our program this year, to make sure that people understood this is the law. And we go through this, letting the people know what has to occur in that presentation. The infection control curriculum I have received from the department is very long. It's 2 hours of instruction, and when we wrote the law in 1998, it was deemed necessary for a course of that length to be presented to and required for both hearing aid dispensers and dispensing audiologists. I have just looked at my application, and what my outline for that course is very long. Now, what parts are we going to cut out for the audiologists? What parts do they not have to know? What aspects of infection control and care do they not require, or do I not have to tell them? Because if I can't reduce a 2-hour program to a 1-hour program without leaving something out, that would require a separate outline, and the department would have to, at that point, very carefully redesign that program so it can be condensed to 1 hour. And infection control is extraordinarily important, and I think the existing program is warranted. And I also asked, the question Barbara raised. I present a 2-hour program. We have audiologists, non-audiologists, ENTs at our conference. At what point in that 2-hour program are they in? Are they out? If they are 1 hour, how do we do it? How do we present that? Do we turn in the 2 hours? I don't know how that would work, but I would suggest that really the 2 hours is necessary. It's a very complex and a very safety-oriented program. I am delighted to hear that there is now a form for completion of the coursework. I know a lot of people call me up all the time, and I never know where it is. So is that going to be online, so that when we go online?
That gets sent to the. Though that's
No, I'm talking about the trainee coursework.
The trainee. That's the certificate we provide to the instructors to use. That's been around for.
Well, I've never received one, but I'll.
Is it on our website? Do you know?
No.
Or does Mark just send it out? We'll make sure you.
Please, because we will naturally add that into our presentation every year about law and regs.
All
Great,
right.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Next, the addition of wording and requirements to the 40-point sign that is currently required to be mounted in all offices. That 40-point text is in law. Now, modifying that 40-point text by adding something to that sign that's currently there for the purpose of the waiver and so forth, I don't know how that works out, whether we can take that sign and change it that way without looking at statute. Dave can let us know about that. Secondly, if we bring the program in, this is our sales contract. Okay? This has all the stuff in it which is required by current law, approximately 10 to 12 points, including type size and so forth. I would be curious as to where we would add more. Would it be a separate document? So I think that's difficult, and certainly when I work with someone, I go through over all the stuff that's on here, because we do talk about protection brochures, we do talk about my status, I'm a dispenser, none of this. We do talk about the 45-day return. We do talk about the waiver. We do talk about the benefits of that and so forth. So I understand the purpose, but we're creating a document that goes quite far, and I do know that we are getting a lot of information from people who have Bluetooth programs, FM. They will want to be included in this as well. Because naturally, if we are holding a 1-hour program on just Telecoil, the other guys competitively are going to want in as well. I mean, this is a product. Telecoil is a product. It's not a concept, it's a product. Bluetooth is a product. FM is a product. As a result, the state will be requiring instruction and specificity on a product, not on assistive listening devices concept. So I'd be very cautious about that, because I don't know, Dave, whether we're opening something door there that we start talking about product technology as opposed to in general. Those are the things. I'm always, every time I come here, I always thank Mark and all you guys for helping us with our conference, because it's been great. We had our biggest one this year, and it looks even larger for next year. I'm really pleased about that. But those are the major issues that I have, and because I don't know, we're treading on two different things here, and I know I write this 2-hour program, and we're applauded by International Hearing Society and the National Board for Certification because of that 2-hour program. So I would be hurt if it gets cut, and also it would make it very difficult for us to figure out how do we do this in our program schedule. Thank you all.
Thank you, Greg. Lawrence?
Amy, this is Jerry.
I think, I don't, unless you need it, nobody else.
Okay. I just wanted to apologize for being late, and also for meeting the last meeting. I was in Washington at that time, and we were listening to some of the hearing scientists talk about the implication of hearing loss on people. And there was a very strong feeling that hearing loss tends to kind of hasten dementia. And so this is very important that we do provide hearing technology that helps people function in real life. Hearing aids alone are very good close, but they don't help in a group situation. So the technology is wonderful. Fred is right about Bluetooth, about assistive devices, and T-coil, which happens to be an old technology, and there may be something else coming down the pipe. But we as a group are really important to what happens to the elderly, and obviously there are more people aging at this point. So hearing aids or some technique to hear is important. The other thing is the prices have gone up so extraordinary that many people can't afford them at the prices they're charging. And this is very sad, very upsetting, that people will not be able to participate even though there's terrific technology today. So I bring this up just to let you think about it and know that what we're doing is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz.
This is Jerry in New York. If I could just comment on the discussion. And I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Fred. It's good to see you long distance. And we very much appreciate your annual convention and the educational work that you do on behalf of the consumer with your dispensers. But I want to clarify a couple of comments because I think it's important. One is Barbara's comment about hearing loops versus other technology. And this gets also at Fred's comment in which he referred to the T-coil as a product. It's not a product. A Telecoil is a $2 copper coil that goes inside a hearing aid. It adds almost nothing to the cost of a hearing aid. Without that $2 product, it's not possible for a consumer to listen to in any public facility that has an induction loop installed. And right now, there are more and more facilities nationwide with induction loops. And even though the technology predates Bluetooth and a lot of the other products that are being touted by the hearing aid manufacturers and sold by dispensers and audiologists, the Telecoil is not such a product. The induction loop system is the only system that works for people with severe to profound hearing loss, in contrast to other public listening systems, namely infrared and FM. It has been proven time and again, and the research exists to show that it's being the most effective. It's being installed in increasing numbers of houses of worship. New York City has a bill being formulated now to require induction loops in all government meeting facilities open to the public that are newly built. So moving forward, we are increasingly able to utilize induction loop technology if we have the Telecoil, and that's why the consumer side is so anxious to see the board do what it can in support of that. So I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so any other comments from the public? From any of the offices? Okay. So the last thing that I need to talk about is that we have one more board meeting that we need to have this year. It's important that when Sharon sends out emails to everybody with proposed dates, that people get back to her so we can try to get a date that works for everybody and try to get a quorum together for the next board meeting. So you should be receiving it in the near future from Sharon, some proposed dates. Okay? Thank you. And I'd like to adjourn this meeting. Go ahead, ask so, yes, can everybody give me a motion to adjourn the meeting? Lauren? Second? Anybody want to second it?
Second. Not sure.
Peter. Okay, Peter's a second. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to this meeting.